What's working on YouTube right now?
We found recently that like 3-hour-long podcasts, kind of like the sweet spot. YouTube is very much a momentum-based platform where if you post a good video, your next video is going to give you even more views. And so you could compound on that. It's like a snowball effect. They're coming to YouTube because they want something. And usually that something is really funny entertainment. It's something that they could learn. If you're not offering anything, there's no reason for people to watch.
Custom hooks strategy. What's that? Do you think video podcasting is too saturated though, and that can people still start new shows this year?
You gotta just press record.
Imagine if getting 73 million YouTube views in 1 month was a down month for you. Today, we have Graham Stephan on the show, personal finance coach and expert, running 3 channels, one of the biggest video podcasts, the Iced Coffee Hour. Graham, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm high energy enough. I'm a bit jet lagged right now. So hopefully the energy's there.
I appreciate it. Back from Japan.
Yeah.
And on the podcast, super grateful. But let's just go straight to it.
Cool.
What's working on YouTube right now?
Seems like podcasts, and then you clip them up and you post shorts. So
Okay.
long form, over an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. Like we found recently that like 3-hour-long podcasts, kind of like the sweet spot, and then clipping those up into shorts. And we A/B test on TikTok, we A/B test on Instagram, we see what does well, and then we figure out what we post on YouTube.
Yeah, define what A/B testing is and how you actually A/B test on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, so we'll post a lot of clips. So we post about 2, sometimes 3 clips a day on TikTok or Instagram, and we'll see which ones do well. If we post a clip and we think this should have done well and it doesn't, we'll look at that clip and we'll say, well, maybe the intro, you just lost some people there. Like halfway through, there's a boring part, we could clip that out, kind of hone it in. Sometimes post it again, and if that does better, then we figure out the best performing videos of those, and then we could post those on YouTube. Like we want to be selective with YouTube.
One of the people you collab with said, ask Graham about his custom hooks strategy. What's that?
Custom hook strategy. Oh, Josh. Hey, Josh. Yeah, so Josh will sometimes tell me to say certain things at the beginning of a clip. So if we're in a podcast setting, sometimes it'll lead into a conversation where I don't have to ask the question. The guest might just unprompted say something. But you need a hook for TikTok or Shorts. You can't just have the guest start talking about something. So for me, he'll say, Graham, I need you to go and say this word. I can't believe you did that. Or how did you get arrested? Or just some hook in the beginning that, you know, when people are scrolling, they'll want to stop and keep watching.
Super smart. So after you have the full podcast recorded, separately, you think about what is a lead in for that. And I think he sent me an example that was Grant Cardone talking maybe about his private jet. And you shot a clip that better teed up what Grant Cardone was about to go in. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So in that one was unique because Josh was with us in the room and we were doing the podcast and he was behind the cameras taking notes. So if there's an interesting segment, he could tell me afterwards, Graham, I just want you to ask this question again. And we could place that question in the podcast to make it look like I'm asking that question. Maybe I didn't phrase it. Sometimes I stutter, ums and ahs. It just doesn't sound good. So I could refilm those certain little clips.
Yeah. So you post-production, you're recording a custom hook to better have that content go viral. What is, once you test on TikTok and Instagram, do you know how many clips you're posting on Iced Coffee Hour, for example? How many episodes a week do you do long form, and how many shorts are you posting that make it to the channel?
Yeah, 1 episode a week, every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. And if it's delayed, something went wrong. So if it posts later than 9, it's a rendering problem.
Yeah.
And then how many shorts we post? I would say at the most 4. Usually it's 2 to 3 a week. And
Okay.
that sometimes depends on the performance of the last clips. Like if we have one clip that's like doing really well, we'll sometimes let that ride out. And so we'll skip posting of a clip, but usually it's 3.
So you are trying to go quality over quantity by the time it reaches YouTube.
Yeah.
You're letting the quantity be on TikTok and Instagram and only putting the best of the best on YouTube.
Yeah. I've noticed that on TikTok and Instagram, the performance of the prior video doesn't matter as much as on YouTube. Like YouTube is very much a momentum-based platform where if you post a good video, your next video is going to give you even more views. And so you could compound on that. And then if the next video gets more views, your next video is going to get even more views. And if you tee it up correctly, it'll just it's like a snowball effect. Whereas on TikTok, you could have one video that does really well, the next one does horrible, and then the next one does really well. So it's like each video is its own thing. So it doesn't matter as much. So you could kind of blast TikTok with whatever and it doesn't really matter.
So a better place to split test. And it's like conspiracy theories. People are mad. There's all kinds of YouTube videos titled YouTube Shorts killed my channel. YouTube Shorts are ruining YouTube. And then the debate is my long form views went down because I started doing shorts, or if I do shorts only, you're creating a split audience or divided audience. It seems that your experience is busting all of those myths, but what is your reaction to all of that conversation that's happening?
Yeah, yes and no. I've been told that shorts should not impact long form views. And I'm also told that someone needs to see, and I heard this like a year ago, like 7 shorts to be recommended one of your long form. So it's not like someone's going to scroll across one short, watch it, and then start getting your long form and then not click on it and then affect your views. I have noticed on my main channel though, long form views did go down when I was posting shorts. Overall subscriber growth went up and overall views went up, but my long form videos were not having the same long tailness when I was posting shorts. But on the Iced Coffee Hour, we ended up getting more views on long form, more views on shorts, more subscribers. So I'm a bit split on it. I think overall it's working and it does a good job. But yeah, on my main channel, I've certainly seen less long form views. So I don't know what to say.
And your Iced Coffee Hour channel is a video podcast channel that is in a way perfectly aligned. Clips from the show as well as long form of the show. I would imagine you're using the related video feature where they could watch the full episode. And you can't use the related video feature on a short to a video that's not on the same channel.
No, you can't. So it's got to be uploaded.
It's got to actually be on the channel. But so on Iced Coffee Hour, it would sound like it's perfectly aligned, to some degree. Whereas I also noticed on your main channel, you're using Iced Coffee clips sometimes.
Some of them.
Yeah.
But I link them back to other videos that are relevant to my main channel. The conversion on that click-through for like related videos is horrible though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really bad. So in the beginning, when they allowed for like hyperlinks to be placed in a short, we would get about 1% to 2% conversion, 3% if it blew all of our expectations. We would do a pinned comment, say, if you want to watch the full video, click here. That had such higher conversion than that related video. No one clicks on the related video, I found. So it's like under 1% of people. In most of our cases, it's like under 0.5%. So it's
not
really
only
bad.
that, you can actually in analytics see also the watch time correlated to where the traffic comes from, which makes you think when you're in a shorts mindset, you're looking for that quick dopamine hit. So even if you do click through, the question is, would you linger and then watch a 3-hour episode? As opposed to starting knowing that I'm going to turn this on and work out and do stuff and go on a drive and whatever. I want to just chill and listen to this whole thing.
I just thought of this. This would be incredible. If you could hyperlink from that short to the exact timestamp where people left off or clicked. Because right now, when you click on that little short thing, it takes you to the beginning of the video. But imagine you're on the short, you click to it, and you're at the same spot in the long form video. So you just like watch an extended version. That would be incredible.
It's super
they don't
smart.
allow you to do that.
Yeah, it goes deeper.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about starting or growing a YouTube channel this year and you're wondering what's working right now, not just to get views, but also to grow your subscribers? If you'd say yes, then I'm excited because coming up soon, we are hosting a free 5-day YouTube challenge where I'm going to be teaching through my 7-step YouTube success system entirely for free. Over 10,000 creators, small business owners, stay-at-home moms, pastors, leaders have used this system to start and grow successful YouTube channels and to monetize them in many creative ways. And we're going to be taking 5 days to go through the best strategies that you can apply whether you want to start a brand new channel or grow your existing channel. So if you want to join me for the free 5-day YouTube challenge, just go to tube1kchallenge.com or click the link in the show notes. Okay, let's get back into this video with Graham Stephan.
Have you had any friends come to you or just people or maybe someone at an event and ever ask you advice for starting a YouTube channel?
Yeah, all the time. And it's usually people who don't have any videos.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, I want to do this. How do I do it? And so I just tell people, post 20 videos and then ask me. No one posts 20 videos.
Yeah.
So it's a good filter. Like if someone's willing to spend the time figuring out how to make 20 videos on their own and then comes to me, hey, I did 20 videos. Here's what I found. Like, then it's different. But if they're just coming at me as like, hey, I want to make a YouTube channel, give me advice, make 20 videos. It's like, that's the minimum barrier to entry. And then I'm happy to help. But like until you've done that,
That's a good filter.
There's no point.
Yeah, because the information could go in one ear but out the other. But the 20 video test is then like, now that's a good entry point to now let's talk. What's the biggest mistake you see new creators make?
They don't look objectively at their content and they're like, oh, it's so awesome because I'm the one who did it. And everyone wants to watch me. But when you look at their video, it sucks. And it's like, would you watch your own video? If you were a stranger, why would you care to watch this? You wouldn't. It's a crap video. And they don't look objectively and just think, is this something a stranger, would they care about watching this? No. So don't post it. So you really have to look objectively and think like, what am I offering to somebody else? If you're posting just for the sake of like, because you want to be on camera and you think everyone cares about what you have to say, they don't. People have their own problems. They want to be entertained. They want to learn something. They're coming to YouTube because they want something. And usually that something is really funny entertainment. It's something that they could learn. It's something that they can improve themselves with. If you're not offering anything, there's no reason for people to watch. So you really have to think of what the viewer wants and how you could provide that to them. It's really about the viewer. It's not about you at all. So it's like, what could you give other people? And you have to think of that first.
What's the biggest myth people believe about being a successful YouTuber like yourself?
The biggest compliment I would say is that you just turn on the camera and talk, which makes it seem very easy. Like, oh, you could just flip on the camera and talk for 10 minutes and then post it. There's a lot of work that goes on the back end. I would say for every main channel video I do, there's at least 12 hours of work.
Okay.
Like minimum that goes into 12 minutes. So when you think it's like an hour a minute of work when it comes to like planning, filming, editing, title, thumbnail, oh, that's on top of it. So there's probably 15 hours of work per video, minimum. And then for a podcast, sometimes it's days of work.
So break down that 15 hours. What, and maybe walk us through your day. If you know you're prepping for your next video.
Yeah, usually the day will start anywhere between like 7, I would say, and then scour the internet for topics. And that'll usually include reading a lot of Reddit, news. I have this one website that'll like aggregate all the news into one, like all the financial news into like one board. And then like every minute there's like a different update because it just aggregates everything that's being posted online. So I look through that. Sometimes I'll have keywords that I type in that'll just give me ideas or prompts. Like millennials are a pretty popular topic to talk about. So sometimes if it's a new like millennial study, that's easy for me to go into. Real estate's easy for me to go into. At this point, I just know what'll do well. But once I find a topic, then I'll think of the spin on the topic, which is usually title, thumbnail. I'll loosely think about that. And then I'll go into the scripting phase. And that's usually, on a good day, that'll start around like 10 a.m. And then I'll not end the day until I finish scripting.
You script your videos word for word?
I do. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on the script. So that's where like the bulk of it comes in. Like a good script will be 6 to 8 hours of work. Like
okay, so
on an easy day.
Okay, so best case scenario, 6 hours, 2 to 3 hours of research. Now we're at 10 hours.
Yeah.
So then what's next? Shooting?
Yeah, shooting.
Probably a different day.
Sometimes I'm in that groove and that momentum where I think, if it's, let's just say 8 p.m., I'm like, oh, I could film this in 2 hours, be done by 10. And then I'm 2 hours ahead for the next day. And sometimes I'll just do that. Sometimes I'm just exhausted. So it just depends. But yeah, about 2 hours of filming, best case an hour. Worst case, probably 2.5. Just it depends on the day, the length of the video, and if I could talk that day.
You have 2 studios, California and Vegas?
I have Vegas. California just don't use, but I still have it.
Yeah.
But I don't use it.
Okay, so you have Vegas, and your videos are known for having 2 angles. Car behind you angle.
Oh, yeah.
And so do you hit record on your own cameras? Do you have 2 cameras?
No, I have one camera. I just move it.
Each time, so you move it one angle, move it to the other angle, and deliver your script.
Yeah. So I film all the desks. So like in the script, it'll say like desk, chair. So I could film all the desk at the desk and then just move the camera to the car and film that angle.
What are some of the things you're thinking there about retention? Is there things you're writing into your script and the fact you're switching up desk, chair for retention?
Yeah, it is. And that's also the reason why like on videos, it helps to move your hands. It's like more movement on screen helps people watch longer, even though it looks ridiculous. But yeah, if you're just like this the entire time, it looks so boring. So you have to have movement on screen.
Yes.
And I don't want like stupid gimmicky pop-ups like all the time. So it does help with retention. And for the script, I try to lead everything almost like a story where like at the end of the desk scene, I want to prompt a question or a reason why they should watch the car scene. So like, the real estate market's going up, but what does that mean for the next year? then it'll go to the
Switch.
car. All right, well, here's the research that I found on this. But what does that mean for you? Desk. Go on that. Well, here's my advice if you're a buyer. And then and so you always have to hook something as a reason for people to keep watching. And I try to tell like a story.
Yeah. So you're not just hooking at the beginning, you're thinking about hooking continuously.
You have to. You have to give people a reason to keep watching. Otherwise, they're just like, they're not going to watch.
Are you still editing?
Now I am. So I was editing up until 2022 or I think 2022, maybe early 2023. I forget. No, 2022. And that's when Alex came in. And when I was doing 3 videos a week, Alex came in. In the beginning, I would edit my video and Alex would edit the same video. And then we would compare afterwards and we'd like take notes. We did that for like 8 months and we kind of honed it in. Alex got really good at that. And then Alex took over completely editing those 3 videos a week. Then when I went down to 1 video a week, I took over the editing again. Because it really I enjoyed the editing process, but doing 3 was like just too much for me.
What software?
iMovie. Alex would edit on Final Cut. I would edit on iMovie. Lately now I'll edit the video and then I'll send it to another editor and he'll put just final touches. Like you see now what I have is like the video, it'll be a screenshot, but you'll see like moving highlighted text. So now I'll edit my own video, but send it to him and he'll just throw a few like, rizzes on it and make it look a little nicer.
A little Riz.
Yeah.
Was that just a Gen Z
It
bomb
is,
drop
yeah,
right
the
there?
Riz, yeah. It's like to spice it up a little bit.
Riz is probably the secret to get it a little extra retention. Got to keep
I think
people-
it helps. I think it just makes it look a little better.
Little Riz keeps people engaged. Okay, so then it's edited, it's exported, it's uploaded. You knew what the title was before you started filming.
Sometimes I'll come up with a rough title and then I'll upload it. And then what I'll do is I'll come up with different titles on notes on my computer. And then I'll like separate them out. So like I'll write them all out like space, 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 space. And then I'll put spaces in between them. So I have to keep scrolling. And then I'll just, in my mind, think, what am I most likely to click on? And then I go through like maybe 10 titles and I'll whittle them down to like the top 3. And I think of more titles. And I just keep honing it to just think, if I saw this pop up on my phone, would I watch it? And if the answer is no, I'll just keep trying to think of new titles. And then I'll put the title in the video with different thumbnails. And then I'll send the video to myself so it shows like the preview of like the thumbnail and the title and I see them together. And I'll think, does this make sense? Would people want to click on it? Is it eye-catching? And if the answer is no, then I'll keep changing that so that the title works with the thumbnail.
That's cool. There's a website called thumbsup.tv, which is just a basic free front-facing website that allows you to upload the thumbnail and the title so you can see it big, small, whatever, and it just kind of populates it. But I mean, it's exact. It's kind of the logic. So people should be implementing what you're saying, but then it kind of getting a feel. Would you click on this? Did YouTube give you split testing titles yet on your channel?
I wish. I got the split tested thumbnails.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
No,
so I have thumbnails.
You have thumbnails.
Yeah.
So who does your thumbnails?
I do.
What software?
Photoshop.
So you do your own thumbnails, your own Photoshop, and are you now doing 3?
Yes.
On every video you throw up, and then it's just deciding for you.
Right. And then sometimes it's undecided, like the thumbnails will be really close.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll pick from those, like which one has slightly better performance.
So do you love that feature? Not everybody has it yet.
I would say yes, I do. The downside is that sometimes I think a thumbnail will like, out of the 3, there's one usually that I'm like, this is better than the other 2. And what I don't like is that in the beginning, because it's like swapping the thumbnails depending on who's watching, sometimes you see performance dip. Like
because
very quickly and then
that's
go
the
back
stronger
up.
one, but
Yeah.
it's harming it because the weaker one, but you're just letting it
The weaker one's
decide.
testing.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll see a dip and then it goes back up and I'm like, oh, it tested that thumbnail. It didn't work. But it's weird because it tests for watch time and not click through. So you could have a really high click through with a certain thumbnail, but lower watch time than someone else who clicks with a different lower performing thumbnail. So I wish they showed you like click through rate instead of just watch time. But my guess is they want people to stick on the platform for as long as possible. So watch time is like their preferred metric.
That's fascinating. What so now you're in that final stage, you've uploaded the video, brainstormed 10 or more titles, narrowed it down to 3. Now you're doing 3 thumbnails.
Mm-hmm.
And then you let the video, publish. How often do you pivot? And do you recommend creators, do you think the greats are pivoting if they feel it? And how do you know? Is it a sixth sense? Is it a 7 years experience, numbers your size that just goes, maybe I should pivot the title. Maybe I should pivot the thumbnail.
Yeah, I know in the first 10 minutes how it's performing. And sometimes it'll be a slow 10 minutes and it'll take to the 30-minute mark to like just catch up. So sometimes that'll happen. Sometimes notifications don't go out for the first like 5 minutes. And that really screws up the numbers because it's like the video posted, views are trickling in, but no notification yet. So I'll usually know 15, 20 minutes in is when I'll start to make changes. And I make changes probably 70% of the time. In the first 30 minutes, it's almost exclusively a title problem because those are people that see the notification that click through or are just quickly browsing and click mostly based on title. And then after 30 minutes, it's title, thumbnail, or thumbnail. So first 30 minutes, it's almost title. So I could just mess with the title a little bit. And then after that, if the title's still not working, then I look at the thumbnail. And if I'm like, this thumbnail is awesome, it's not the thumbnail, it's a title. Sometimes then I'm like, maybe I just screwed up on the topic. Maybe just this topic is more niche than I expected. And I kind of got this off and I thought it would be a bigger audience and it's not. That's my fault. And then sometimes I'll also look at the video and I'll say, well, maybe my intro just wasn't good. Or maybe I lost people a minute in because I went too much on the background and not like going straight into it. So there's usually a reason every video doesn't perform and you got to figure out the reason. Sometimes it's just wrong topic.
What are your thoughts on going too extreme? Do you think that sometimes you go too extreme because you don't know what you don't know as far as pivoting? And I heard Todd Bupre, YouTube algorithm, right, kind of employee talking about sometimes people underestimate the long tail of a video, the multi-weeks of a video. And I know certain topics you cover are very news-based, but certain are also more evergreen. So do you think it could be in sometimes sideways energy to spend too much time tinkering as opposed to like on to the next?
Yeah.
How do you know when to let it go?
I know which videos are long tail videos. And like I purposely go in thinking this will be an evergreen video. It's not going to do well out of the gate. And I'm expecting after a few months, it'll do well. But the news-based ones, there should be at worst a 6 out of 10, like at worst.
Yeah.
So if they're not, then that's on me.
Got you. So if it's news-based, if it's trend, if it's now information, if it should be getting interest right now, that's what you're thinking about tweaking so that it hits hardest right now.
Yeah.
If you go into evergreen, you're like, this is great because I'm going to let this thing kind of rank in search or rank in suggested and just kind of hang out. And knowing that distinction is powerful. Do you think video podcasting is too saturated though, and that can people still start new shows this year?
They can, but it's getting saturated. But then again, I said that in 2016 when I started making YouTube videos. I thought it was saturated too. And look at where we're at now.
And new creators are popping up all the time.
Yeah. So I would say everyone's doing a podcast, which is a thing where I'm like how much time do we have left before everybody has a podcast?
And how many 3-hour shows are even humanly possible of listening to?
Everyone's doing it. Every creator who's like made YouTube videos is now like, I'm going to do a podcast, which is smart because they're pivoting into something that's working right now. It's getting saturated. I don't know if it's too saturated, but you have to really put a spin on things.
Yeah.
The hardest aspect of a podcast is getting a good guest because podcast is really only as good as like the questions you ask, your personality, and the guest. And it seems like guests are kind of like pimping themselves out to like everybody. Like if you have one guest, they're making their rounds on like 5 different podcasts and it's like who gets them first. And then it's like they're competing with like all these other podcasts. So it's like certain creators would be best off just going on like 1 or 2 and stopping and not doing more than that. So it's tough to get interesting guests that have not been on like a bajillion other podcasts and you want to make it different than that. And usually people don't have a different story. So it's like, how could you make it different? It's really tough.
How have you gotten some of these big guests? You've had Mr. Ballin, that's like your most viewed video on the ice. And you have Dave Ramsey, Ben Shapiro, many others. I mean, one, you also came in with a lot of influence in the momentum of the podcast. But
that helped tremendously because in the beginning, I think when I started the podcast, the main channel was like a 2 million something subscribers.
Yeah.
So it really was super easy to say, hey, my main channel is at 2 million subscribers, just started a podcast. Do you want to come on? A lot of people just said yes, especially because we were more so in like the personal finance business space. Everyone said yes. So that kind of helped get us off the ground. And then from there, as the main channel grew, a lot of that was just like me DMing people. Now we have someone who helps us book guests. So we do have a booker who will help with some of those, like Ronnie Coleman was one of them. But Ben Shapiro was like, we would never have been able to get him on, but we had Brett Cooper on. And we had watched her on YouTube, and it was easy to send a DM like, hey, I've got a channel with like 3.5 million subscribers, would love to have you on the podcast. And she, I think at the time, was under 1 million. And so hers did so unbelievably well that like Ben felt comfortable afterwards and like did a great job with her. I trust that you'll do a great job with me too. So
Gotcha.
that really helped like get our foot in the door.
Momentum starting, being excellent with each episode, compounding that momentum. What advice now, though, if you put yourself in the shoes of somebody not in your circumstances, to maybe try to punch above their weight class in terms of guests, or you said you got to figure out an angle if you were coaching a friend that wants to cut through the noise in a 2024 world to start a show, what advice would you give them?
Pick a really interesting guest that people wouldn't think of. Like I think Soft White Underbelly did a really good job sharing stories of people from all walks of life that you would never expect to see in an interview. And he's talking about a lot of taboo subjects. And that is like, people have a curiosity. There's someone collecting like death memorabilia. It's like, what? You would never even expect that. But I listened, it was a very odd, but like interesting interview that is just like, who would do that? So he came up with a really weird angle. And some of his stories were just fantastic. And there's been a lot of people who have been discovered from his podcast that they just have a really cool story that has never been shared before. Theo Vaughn had someone on who's a garbage man. Just interesting. So I think you could have people on if they're good in the camera, they're charismatic, they have a big personality, just sharing an interesting story. So you could have just people from all walks of life. Like what it's like to own a convenience store. I don't know. You pick people who just are good on camera. I'd say it's more important because you could have a garbage man who's just quiet, terrible on camera. But Theo picked a guy who was like very charismatic, very funny, very outgoing, and it showed on camera.
What final thoughts? So you're talking to somebody that is early on in their career and they want to have success as a content creator or as a business owner trying to leverage content, build a personal brand. What are just some final thoughts about the mindset lessons you've learned along the way?
For content creation, you have to be consistent. And yet, like I mentioned in the beginning, you have to think of the audience and what they want to see. So if you're not providing value to them in every single video and every single minute, then they're not going to watch and it's all going to be for nothing. So like if it's content creation, provide value first. Think of the audience first. Like what are you trying to solve for them? And people won't care about you. They'll care about what you could do for them. So think of how you could serve other people, I think is always the best way to think about it. It's just what could you do for somebody else? How could you make their life a little better for whatever time that they watch your video? So think of the other person first. Never think of yourself. It's always about the other person.
So strong.
If you enjoyed this content and want to take your YouTube channel to the next level, just click or tap the link on the screen or go to tube1kchallenge.com to join our next live YouTube challenge. You'll learn our best tips and strategies that are working here at Think Media, and I think you'll love it.